In this video, I'm going to show you how to go from this to this as I show you how to paint Bo-Katan Kryze and the Night Elves from the brand new Star Wars Shatterpoint game. A big shout out to Asmodee UK for sending me a preview copy so I can make these tutorials. I'm really excited about these models, so let's get painting. The first thing I've done is prime the model using some black spray paint. Now this is really important because it means that any other layer of paint that we put on after it is going to stick to the model much better, especially when we're going to be handling these pieces for gaming. The first colour I'm going to paint is all of the silver. Now I'm going to be focusing on Bo-Katan here, but I am painting all of the Night Elves at exactly the same time. The colour I'm using is dark aluminium. You can use whatever dark silver you've got. If you've got Leadbelcher, use that and just copy the box art to see where to put the colours. With the silver down, we'll start to base the blue parts of the armour next. And the colour I'm using is Kalador Sky from Citadel. If you haven't got Citadel paints, then just check the description where I do have a paint conversion chart. So we're looking to paint all of the blue element of Bo-Katan's armour here, and of course all the other Night Elves. If you look at the box art, one of them has got predominantly blue armour, whereas the other one's only got a little bit of blue armour, but we're going to base all of those at the same time. Next up, we'll shade all of that silver and the blue elements of the armour. The colour I'm using for this is Nuln Oil. Now it's really important that we don't let this flood and pool in too many areas on the miniature. So we just want to keep an eye on it as it dries. We don't have to be too careful in terms of where it goes because we're going to be painting over many elements anyway. We don't want some nasty dark tide marks though. So before it dries, make sure you wick away any excess Nuln Oil. With that all dry, let's get the leather done. So this is kind of a ready leather, and we're going to base all of it using Rhinox Hide. So just take your time, particularly around those areas you may have already finished, or at least the silver and the blue, because we don't want to spill anything anywhere else. And we're just covering up all the bits of leather such as the belts and any straps. To start highlighting the leather, we're going to use some Doomball Brown, which again is a nice reddy brown colour. And in terms of what we're looking to do, we're looking to paint most of the leather but leave that Rhinox Hide in the recesses. And this gives us a really nice effect when it dries because it's not going to dry too brightly and it will start to shade down into the colour underneath, which when we go to do the highlight will really help it stand out. The last highlight we'll do on the leather is with Scrag Brown. Now this is a really nice orangey red brown and we want to use this really sparingly, so make sure we've got a really good tip on the brush and that we haven't got too much paint. And what we're looking to do is just drag this along any sharp edges to give a really nice crisp highlight. And the other thing we're looking to do is where it's going over parts of clothing is again just capture those most raised edges with some nice sharp fine lines. And again, don't forget we're doing all three of the Night Elves at the same time. Next up, we'll get that blue armour finished and make it nice and bright. So the first thing we need to do is go back to that base colour of Kalador Sky, and we're looking to just highlight the most prominent areas that are going to catch the most light. So this means that we're going to work around all the edges and being mindful of the shapes of the model as well. So where we've got round areas, we're going to be doing round highlights. We're not going to catch any sharp edges just yet, but we do want to leave the darker colour in the recess and of course be careful around parts we've already finished. The first highlight across all that blue is going to be with Teclis Blue. So this is a nice bright blue and what we're looking to do is keep this fairly tight. So where we do have those sharp raised edges, we're going to drag the brush along them. And we're also going to add some more specular highlights, which is a more volumetric style, by just painting over the round highlights that we put in the previous stage. Now this might look a little bit rough to start with, so if you need to just smooth out those edges using the previous colour underneath. This is a really nice way to make that blue really start to pop. The final highlight we'll put on all the blue armour is going to be with Lothern Blue, and what we're looking to do here is really catch those sharp edges. So like we did with the leather, make sure you haven't got too much on your brush, and where you can, use it to drag along the edges of the armour, and where you can't, just be very careful and make sure you're very deliberate with a good sharp point. Really key not to have too much paint on your brush for this step. We'll start to highlight all of the silver next, and the first colour we're going to use is dark aluminium. Now I'm only really going to use this on any big armour panels on the models, and we're going to focus this on those areas that are going to catch the most light. So we're not going to worry too much about painting anything that's in darkness or in shadow, and we're going to make sure we leave some of that dark colour in the recesses as well. When that's finished, we'll take some chrome from Vallejo Model Air. Now you can use whatever bright silver you've got. If you've got Stormhold silver, that's absolutely fine. And we're looking to use this to just catch the most sharpest edges, in particular along the weapons and the targeter that we've got on the helmets as well, and of course the edges of any armor that these models are wearing. So again, not too much on your brush, a really good point, then just drag it across those really hard edges. You'll get a really nice, bright, crisp highlight. Next up, we'll highlight all of Bo-Katan's clothing, and the first colour I'm going to use for this is Skaven Blight Dinge. In terms of how we apply this, we're looking to catch the most raised folds and leave the darker colours in the recesses. We're also looking to catch any areas such as on that left leg, which is going to catch a load of light. We're going to paint all of that area with the Skaven Blight Dinge. Now, as for the other Night Elves, we're just painting them in slightly different colours and shades of grey and bluey grey. Have a look at what paints you've got, and then you can go in and paint them whatever colour you want. If you haven't got a wide variety of paints, then you can paint them exactly the same as Bo-Katan. They'll still look different because their armour will be done completely differently as well. The final highlight on all that clothing is going to be with Storm Vermin Fur. And again, we're doing something very similar in terms of looking at those areas that are going to catch the most light. So again, that left leg, that left arm, they're going to be fairly bright. Otherwise, we're just looking to catch the most raised folds. That's what's going to give us a really nice crisp highlight and some volume to all that clothing. Moving on to all the white parts. Now on Bo-Katan, it's the front of her helmet and also all those smoke trails from the jetpack. Now I'm going to use Corax White for this because 2 coats of this will cover fantastically well. If you want to build it up from a grey base coat, then you can do that as well, but make sure the final result is a very nice white colour. If it's off-white, that's fine, but really what we're looking for is something that's nice solid white, because that's really going to help us in the next stage and really help us get some nice effects on the model. To paint the owl insignia on the helmet, I'm using Frostheart contrast paint, which is really easy to just drop into those recesses and get a really nice blue colour. Now I know on the live action Bo-Katan, the owl iconography is slightly different with grey eyes, a black nose, and also the black bits of feather coming off the back. But this model's really small, you might not see that subtleness of shade, and that's why I've gone for the bright blue that's on the box art. When that's completely dry, I'm now going to go in and highlight the white on the helmet. And I'm using Bold Titanium White from Procryl, which is a really nice bright white colour, but you can use whatever bright white you've got. If you use AK, if you've got White Scar, that's absolutely fine. The important thing is that we catch the sharpest raised edges, and we also are very careful to paint around the owl iconography on the helmet, because this will help accentuate it. When you're looking at it from a distance as it's on the tabletop, it'll look really, really good. Next up, we'll do the smoke trails, and that's why it's really important that we have that nice solid white colour. We're just going to take some Basilicanum Grey contrast paint and paint it over all of that smoke. Now, we're not going to paint it right up to the flames coming out of the jetpack. We are just going to paint to that level, but then we'll make sure the rest of it is completely covered. And what we do want to make sure is that it's not too harsh. So we will start to wick away some of it before it dries, just to get a nice smoother transition. To paint the flame coming out of the exhaust, we're going to go fairly quick, so maybe watch this through and then try it. First thing we'll do is take some Imperial Fist contrast paint and paint the top half of the exhaust this colour. Then we'll dip this in some Magma Drop flame contrast paint and paint the bottom half. So this is all wet and it's all working really quickly. Then we'll clean our brush off and we'll start to push those 2 colours together and blend them in until it's a nice seamless transition between the 2. You can also drag the orange into that smoke to give some reflection. It's easy enough to do. Just clean your brush off again and then brush downwards, and what you'll see is you start to take off that orange paint towards the bottom and it'll transition really nicely into the smoke. The last thing we'll do is paint the lights on the chest of Bo-Katan and one of the other Night Owls, and if you haven't based them already with a bright white, do this, and then we'll just take a little bit of Imperial Fist contrast paint and brush it over, and that's a really easy way of doing that bright light. And there we have it, that's Bo-Katan and some of the Night Owls done, ready for the Shatterpoint battlefield. Again, huge thanks to Asmodee for sending me this box set early. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed painting them and can't wait to paint more. If you want some basing ideas, check out this video here. Otherwise, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.